Previously installing the Super Z on my bike, I was pleasantly surprised by how well it performed. But you know what that means? It's time for a matching shock. So I'm a deal hunter, always looking for the best deals on the market. So I find this super extremely good deal on jensenusa.com for the Bomber Air Shock, the perfect match for your Super Z fork. Now, Jensen has a lot of stuff, but one of the big selling points of using Jensen, they don't use the post office, they use this thing called OnTrack. OnTrack has super fast delivery times, even if you select the standard free shipping. The Bomber Air doesn't have much inside of the box. We basically got a user manual and the shock packaged up real elegantly in a familiar looking box, if you know what I mean. So the question is the Bomber Air just a copycat Float X with some new stickers on it? Well, zooming in here, it's definitely not. It has an offset piggyback, a different rebound adjuster, and a definitely different compression adjuster. Internally speaking, if it is a copycat, that is a good thing because the Float X is an excellent shock. Internally, underneath the air can, it looks very similar to the Fox Float X, to no surprise. The exterior air can feels identical to the Float X. So I do have some Float X spacers laying around, so I'm going to try to set it up precisely how I did the last 3 Fox Float X's I had. What you gotta know is the Bomber Air Shock comes with 0 tokens out of the box. If you happen to be 220 pounds riding an e-bike, the orange token is the one to ride. Now I'm having quite a bit of difficulty installing the token in the Bomber Air, and I'm like, why won't this go in? I never remembered it being this hard. Being a middle-aged male, of course I'm not gonna read the directions, but I will do some investigating here. The Marzochi tokens look identical, but they're not. There's a little channel in a different location for the offset piggyback, I'm guessing. Wrongfully installed the wrong tokens in this shock, and I'm going to put it together and try to go take it for a ride because this could be a really common error for someone. Do not do this at home. With the token cut out in the wrong position, I started pumping up the shock and it didn't feel very good. Now there's a lot of wild deals out there, like the DHX, linked in the description if you're more of a coil shock guy. With the token wrongfully installed, all the air hissed out of the shock and it did not sound very good. We can see the Schrader valve is kind of bulging out of the shock, and my fingers are crossed I didn't blow this brand new shock up. It didn't look like there was too much damage inside of the shock, but I did remove that Float X token from it, put the Schrader valve back in, and attempted to pump it back up. What basically happened is it destroyed the shock pump. So I had to go to the store and buy a new digital shock pump. Round 1 ride will be with 0 tokens on the Marzocchi Bomber Air Shock because you just gotta go take it for a ride. And that's actually good because most people aren't gonna put tokens in it first thing. Filling up the Bomber Air Shock is identical to the Float X. You need to press it 25% into the travel every 50 psi to equalize both chambers. Here's the best and laziest way to set sag on your shock. Push the front down, feel it, then push the back down, and make sure the squish feeling feels identical and you're set to ride. Super Z on the front, Bomber Air on the back. Inside the user manual, it basically tells you to run 25 to 30% sag, identical to the Float X. Fox's setup guides are typically very good. So we want to make a little piece of cardboard with 25% sag and 30% sag, and the measurements are inside the manual. Further into the manual, it will basically give you a starting rebound. So for me, I'm going to start with 4 clicks from fully slow. Since I have 0 tokens installed in this shock, I'm going to run it at 25% sag because I'm super familiar with the Float X. I have like 25 minutes of setup videos on the Float X, you can go find those later. Marzocchi. The Bomber Air is super responsive to rider input. It goes through the stroke of the shock super quickly, and it's super fun on the trail. You can kind of pop and play, and it's a really fun shock, just like the Fox Float X. Started out with a faster rebound than specified in the manual, because you can get better performance from running a faster rebound. but I right away knew it was too fast, so I pulled over and put it back to the manual specifications for my body weight at 4 out of the total. The deepest part of the stroke is accessible, allowing you to get excellent preload and pop, and is just excellent on blue flow trails. There is one variation I did discover from that day of riding the Bomber Airshock. The compression adjuster on the Bomber Air is actually the best. You could reach down while you're riding, put it to the full firm setting, hit the jump line as hard as you want, like bottom the shock out, and then reach down and put it back into the open setting for the trail rides. The sweeper adjust compression lever is absolutely simple and genius. It was amazing for me to go for a ride and not have any tokens in a shock and not just be riding on the bump stop every time I hit a bump. To complete the rodeo, you gotta click this video on the screen to see the full story on the Float X against the Super Deluxe. And quick secret,